Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this would ordinarily be ship updates. Unfortunately, we've had to make that statement a couple of times so far, but it is Christmas and the post rollout of the Christmas break, so there's not that much going on in terms of ship updates. Now, I kind of wanted to do a Polaris-centric episode, but I think I'm going to wait a little while till we get maybe a little bit closer to that June, July-ish date when the ship is going into production. As we all know, even when ships go into production, that doesn't mean they're going straight through to flight ready. There have been a few notable examples of ships that have gone the distance and sometimes even gotten to the point of almost being flight ready, only to be pulled back because certain things weren't ready for them or because, shifting design priorities. And so we're going to hold off a little bit. There's a lot to unpack with the Polaris, and I definitely want to do a very intense look at the Polaris, not only dealing with the ship's history, but, talking about, certain difficulties that have arisen with the construction of ships of this nature before, and hopefully, putting out a few notes there in case somebody from CIG happens across the video. They might go like, oh yeah, remember, put in weapon racks and armor racks, like sufficient for the crew. Make sure, but we'll leave that for a future episode. Instead, what I kind of wanted to talk about was the letter from the chairman, because that is definitely an update that deals with a lot of things, both Star Citizen and, of course, Squadron 42 being kind of the big headliner that you can pull out of that. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, the new roadmap, the new pipeline, blah, 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 blah. And it was all, somewhat interesting. But, a lot of people kind of clung to the fact that, no updates on Squadron 42, nothing, no videos, no nothing. And a lot of people kind of took kind of a sour feeling from that. I, on the other hand, didn't. And it's not because, as some of you I'm sure are aware, I'm not really all that gung-ho about Squadron 42. I've always been more like Star Citizen, Squadron 42. Oh yeah, that thing. And that is based off of a personal prejudice. I am not all that big on single player games, and one of my big complaints has always been that in single player games that you can't really kind of share that experience with your friends, and that's why I generally tend to gravitate towards MMOs. And that is my personal prejudice that taints my perspective on Squadron 42, and I've made that very clear many, many times when I talk about Squadron 42. And it's just, even when I play games like, let's say, like Valhalla or Cyberpunk, at first I'm like, oh yeah, this is great, this is cool, look at all these systems, look at all these talents, look at all these different abilities that my character can use. But then I don't get to mesh that with another player and say, hey, what if I picked all of this tree and you picked all of that tree, and we work together? That would be really great, wouldn't it? Yeah, let's try that. And that's where the single player games really tend to lose me. I mean, Squadron 42 officially kind of lost me at the loss of co-op gameplay. That was when I was just like, okay, whatever. And I wrote it off. But a lot of people were disappointed. There's not going to be a vertical slice. There's not going to be, a big reveal of something in Squadron 42. Not something that has to be like spoilerific. Like, oh my God, Admiral Bishop is actually secretly working for, the Van Duel, and this whole time, or anything like that. But there's nothing. They don't really have to show us anything that kind of gives major plot elements away to kind of show off the game. And that has always been my argument in the past. Like, you can show us a lot while at the same time showing us very, very little. And that's an argument that I've made many, many times in the past. However, on this, I have been silent and I have not said anything. And I think that over the last month, there's been kind of something that I've been holding back from viewers, from YouTube at large. Something that I noticed that I didn't say. And I just I noticed how people were reacting to it, and I was like, you know what? Let's just let that cool down for a little bit. And then I'm going to say something. And so when I saw the letter for the chairman, and obviously some people were very disappointed by that, I felt that, okay, it's now at the proper point where I can kind of serve this idea up and present what I want to say. Now, you might be saying, oh, didn't we see this footage before, of you and the Mercury Star Runner? Didn't you just use that in the last episode? And it's just like, yeah, but it's relevant to what I am about to talk about. A lot of people are disappointed. You didn't really see any, we're not going to see anything really substantial in terms of reveals for Squadron 42. But I think that CIG low-key did something at the beginning of the month technically at the end of November, at the beginning and in the middle of December, with a little animated short they produced called The Reunion. Now, I'm just putting a little snippet of it here on the screen, or probably a very lengthy one. In fact, I'm deleting the audio, mainly because if you haven't seen this, you should go and see it. Now, there's a lot of people who kind of, I think took away the wrong things from this. There were people who are saying, oh, like all the guys at the base, they all shoot like stormtroopers. Oh, they copied that scene with the ship dropping down and then popping back up from Star Trek. Why is CIG wasting all their time on this when they should be doing Squadron 42? What are they doing? I'm enraged. I claim aggrieved status on the internet. I'm mad because of this. But when you look at it, it's very, very crisply done. It's beautiful. It tells a tight story, and it does it very well. But there's one thing that you may not have noticed in your viewings, and that's this ship here, the Star Runner. When did CIG finish that ship? When did we get that ship? Mid-October. As a finished asset, the chances are to use in this video, the earliest that they had this available to them in a usable state to produce this video, because remember, we were watching the progress of the Star Runner throughout the year. The earliest that they probably had this was about September-ish, that they could have used what they had to produce this video. So what is CIG really showing you here? Yeah, they can plan out a script. Yeah, they can come up with various plot points, but to bring all this together, you needed the Mercury Star Runner, and you needed it in a fairly finished state, because remember, these characters are not only being acted and voice acted, but they have to be animated, and they have to navigate these environments, and every little change that you make to that ship as you're bringing it into reality, into the game's reality rather, you have to account for that and how that might change the way a character animates. If a character hops down through one of the basement hatches to get into the into the crawl space underneath the ship, if that hatch moves, that animation has now got to be altered. So what CIG is kind of showing you with The Reunion is low-key. They're showing you how quickly they can punch something like this out. Yeah, they can do all the planning, they can do the voice acting, they can get a lot of it there, but to get that final finished piece together, it really doesn't take them that long once they've got the tools and the assets. And I think that is kind of, in a weird way, what I think that the low-key statement here is that when we have access to the resources that we need, and when we have the stuff that we need to get things done, we can actually get things done very, very quickly and do a hell of a job with it. Now, in-game cutscenes are certainly not something that is, relegated to only Star Citizen or Squadron 42. Many, many games use this. Here's a snippet of one from WoW, a very recent one. And, it's well animated, it's well voice acted, you can watch it even without the sound and what's going on, not just because of the subtitles, but you can tell by the emotions on the characters' faces. It's very well done. And once again, when you go back to something like The Reunion, it's still very, very well done. The character acting, the animation, it doesn't look wooden, it doesn't look bad, it looks very, very excellent. It's all very well put together, and certainly on par with anything else, if not better than many of the things that you see the industry doing right now, like this. So when you come back to something like the Reunion and you realize that, they aren't using a lot of models that they've had access to for a year or more, they had one key element from this video that was missing until the very last minute. Sure, they could have scripted it, they could have done the voice acting, they could have done a lot of the motion capture prior to realizing, exactly how the Mercury Star Runner was going to work out internally. But once they got that asset, they were able to work very quickly and bring all these pieces together and produce what is a really excellent in-game cutscene. I mean, this is top-notch work. Yeah, you can say, the soldiers are all shooting like stormtroopers, and, the Mercury Star Runner is going to pull a Starship Enterprise in, with the new movies, I often kind of lose the title, but the one where they drop the ancient Starfleet ship all the way down the cliff and it just pops up at the last second. Yeah, they kind of played off of some sci-fi tropes from popular films, but at the end of the day, they were able to kind of produce this amazing work in a short amount of time. And a lot of people are going to be disappointed that this isn't an Admiral Bishop in front of, a screen telling us what we're going to do, or some amazing scene of Henry Cavill flying a bomber and blowing up a Vanduul ship. And yeah, it isn't gameplay footage, but what they're actually showing off is their capacity and their pipeline to put stuff like this together. And I think that it bodes very well for Star Citizen as a project. I know that, when other people were griping, I was looking at this and I was saying that what they're showing off is their technical expertise and their capabilities with the tools that they now have developed. And that to me was very, very impressive. So I wasn't one of the people who was kind of really angry about this. I kind of sat back after a while, after my initial reaction. I looked at it and I was like, this is what they're really doing. They're showing off what they can do and how quickly they can get it done. I mean, all of these scenes here in this ship, this ship didn't exist until last October. At most, they had access to these assets by September, and they were able to get this finished. That's pretty damned impressive. So when Chris is saying, I don't have anything to show you in, for Squadron 42 this time around, I kind of feel like he already did show us a hell of a lot. He just didn't reveal it to us, as, in a weird way, kind of exactly in the way that I've been asking for, which is you don't have to give away plot elements. You just have to show your work, and they showed their work, Now, I'm not going so far as to say like this video is a direct response to something I've said. No, this is obviously an internal project that they've been working on some level for a while. But they, when we're sitting there and we're complaining, we're saying, show us your work, show us your work. This is it, living and breathing. This is excellent work. So I'm not really disappointed by the no Squadron 42 reveals at all, because in a weird way we got a really good one, a really big one, and I really enjoyed it. One of the other reasons, maybe on CIG's end psychologically, what might be motivating their reticence to share Squadron 42 is that you have to remember that from a game player perspective, we kind of view games as a finished product, and when they don't work out, we're very vocal about it, and we're, a company can destroy its reputation. Look what happened to CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk. And CIG is probably extreme, the people who are in charge at CIG are probably, things like Cyberpunk, things like Fallout 76 have probably made them super, super paranoid. And there's probably like almost like a fear, like, oh, what if they take it the wrong way? What if they don't understand what we're showing us? What if it's got so many bugs that we can't show it off? And, earlier in Star Citizen's production pipeline, we were used to messed up presentations. We got used to a lot of these things. But I think that with so many of these projects possibly damaging or destroying the companies that create them, or at least their reputations, that CIG is probably like super ultra paranoid now about releasing things before they're ready. I mean, Star Citizen is already out, and we already know how bad it can be. Like that is well documented on the internet. But showing like Squadron 42, I think, is maybe in CIG's eyes is their chance to kind of redeem that by releasing a product that is truly polished and finished, and they don't want to repeat what happened with Fallout, what happened with Cyberpunk. They don't want to go down that road, and so they're probably, those two projects have probably made CIG maybe even more fearful to kind of put the product out there, whereas before they might have been like, well, we can kind of get this out and then tweak it a little bit later. And now they're probably, just kind of, especially with Cyberpunk, they're probably just pulling back and going like, whoa, this could turn into a disaster overnight. No. That, I think, would probably make them double down on the old it's ready when it's ready routine. So, I mean, that's another thing to take into account, like the game developer perspective on all of that. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the letter for the chairman, broadly speaking, because I'm not going to go into that thing in granular detail, because Chris kind of wrote us a bit of a mini novella there. But yeah, that's broadly what I see and broadly my perspective on it. You may see it differently, that's fine, but for me, that's what I see. Anyways, that's the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.